But there is no doubt that this terrorist attack confirmed yet again that the Zelensky regime is ready to engage in any provocation to undermine the negotiations process, and that the regime will go to any length to convince its Western sponsors to try to derail the process and make efforts like the United States forward. But there is no doubt that this terrorist attack confirmed yet again that the Zelensky regime is ready to engage in any provocation to undermine the negotiations process, and that the regime will go to any length to convince its Western sponsors to try to derail the process and make efforts like the United States forward. Almost the entire OSCE agenda has been Ukrainized, with rare exceptions. It even happened in areas which were supposed to be devoted to mutually beneficial cooperation and the search for concrete, mutually acceptable projects in transport, communications, logistics, investments, and humanitarian affairs. The organization is now seeing an effort to the detriment of discussions that should pursue its actual agenda, seeing increasing efforts to include issues that do not fall within its competence, that aim to Ukrainize the agenda further. And this was a frank discussion. Our Swiss colleagues in the Secretariat appreciate the complexities that they will have to navigate, given the deep crisis at the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. The causes of this crisis are well known, but we still had an additional discussion on this topic, and we responded to concerns that our colleagues had. And the root causes lie with the leadership of NATO and the European Union, which, long before the Ukrainian events, decided to put the organization at the service of their own interests. And after the special military operation began, they made it into a tool to wage hybrid war against the Russian Federation and support the all-out war that is being waged against our country. I said, well, you must have some sort of journalistic dignity, because sometimes we're seeing questions asked like, why is not Russia interested in reaching peace? Which is an abstraction that you can ask as many times as you want, and you can respond to it an infinite amount of times. But as to who exactly was killed in Bucha and why isn't this discussed? Well, Secretary General Guterres mumbled something about that, turning down his eyes, saying that there are ethical standards that do not allow them to to name those names out loud. What kind of ethical standards are those? So I call on journalists, especially Western journalists, as it was in the Western media that this scandal was incited, try to ask the Ukrainian leadership or ask the BBC. They must know who to contact to pull up all the details of that situation. So you shouldn't just play along with the Rutes von der Leyen's and Zelensky's, who constantly lie outright. And now NATO is doing exactly what is prohibited. They're trying not only to dominate, but also to include more and more countries, to expand. Now they're trying to swallow Ukraine and turn it into a launch pad against the Russian Federation, to deploy military bases, to deploy weapons targeting Russia. And this has led to the situation where we had no choice but to start the special military operation, acting in response to the appeals from the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics.
Subscribe to Oneindia and never miss an update. Download the Oneindia app now.